All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pats Pulpit pregame preview. It's the playoffs. It's the AFC Championship. It's the fifth time the Pats have been here in the past 5 years. I'm loving every second of it. Huge matchup today. Patriots, Broncos, Brady, Manning. We all know the storylines. I'm Alex Shane here, as always, with Rich Hill. Rich Hill, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing well, Alec. And you said that there's a storyline. What's going on? I thought it was just Tom Brady playing against the Denver Broncos backup quarterback.
Well, the storyline technically is Tom Brady versus the Denver defense, but no one cares about that. No one cares about DeMarcus Ware or Von Miller. No, it's Brady versus Manning. It's Peyton Manning playing in another AFC Championship game, another playoff game. Brady Manning 17. That's all we've heard all week. We're all sick of it. We've all been sick of it for the past, I would say, 10 years or so, but that's not going to stop us. That's not going to stop people from blathering on about it. And who are we to judge? I'm not going to judge.
Oh, I can't get enough of it, man. Personally, I think that there would be nothing more heartbreaking if Peyton Manning pulls something out of his rear end this weekend and he just does something that no one's expecting. He's out there being like, haha, I just tripped all of you guys. And he's just been limping around with like an extra stone in his shoe just to fool everyone. And he goes out there and slings for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think that would be the most absolute devastating thing for the entirety of Patriots Nation. I can't think of anything worse.
Yeah, not only would that be kind of rough to deal with, there'd be literally nowhere you could go on the planet to not hear about it either. Like you could like fly to like Zimbabwe and live in a mud hut, and there'd be these tribal Aborigines talking about Peyton Manning and how he's the best quarterback of all time. There's nothing you could do about it. So not the most beautiful image to start this pregame preview off with, Rich. But you know what? It's a possibility. Like I said in a couple podcasts or previews ago, every great fighter has one great fight left in them, and who knows? The cards are all there. Ed Hockley, Denver's favorite ref, is on there. It's in Denver. Brady's not great in Denver, and kind of chilly. So, who knows? Anything can happen in the playoffs. That's why we watch, though, right? That's why we watch.
Yeah, and I guess the cards are in the playoffs. The cards are in the NFC right now, and so Cardinals Panthers, right? You like that one? That was pretty good.
That's a smooth transition. I like it.
That was pretty bad. I apologize to everyone who's watching. But Cardinals-Panthers, do you have any thoughts on that right now? That's kicking off a little after the 6 o'clock hour later on in the day. Kickoff's at 6:40. It will take place in Carolina. The Panthers storyline, they're 15-1. Cam Newton is probably going to get MVP. Their head coach is Ron Rivera, probably going to get Coach of the Year. I don't know. Do you find anything really intriguing about this matchup? Do you have any thoughts on either of those teams?
For one, I'm very glad it's the NFC game late tonight. There's nothing worse than sweating out the NFC game, knowing the AFC game's coming up afterwards. So I'm glad it's our year to have the early game. But in terms of the game itself, I'm really more just rooting for Larry Fitzgerald. Love that man. Really hope he gets his chance to play in the Super Bowl. That'd be fantastic. Kind of a solid end to his career. He's on the back nine, obviously. In terms of the game itself, I don't know what to think, honestly. I saw the Panthers against the Seahawks come out to a 31-point demolishing of them in the first half, and they kind of put it on coast and just let the Seahawks back in it. And they have a tendency to do that all season. They get up early and they kind of sit on their laurels and relax a little bit. And the Cardinals, I don't know what to make of them either. The Packers game was pretty epic, but I didn't walk away from that game thinking like, wow, the Cardinals are a team to be reckoned with. They're capable of winning. Their defense is solid. They should have won the regular time, but Hail Marys happen. So I don't know. I feel like I think the Cardinals are favored, and rightly so, but it really could go either way. And I know I'm pulling for Arizona in that one.
Okay, yeah, no. I kind of agree. I want to see Fitz go out there. I think the Panthers are actually favored by like a touchdown or something like that, or just a little bit. They loved how they just hammered the Seahawks early, and then the Seahawks destroyed the Cardinals, so transitive property and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think that I do want Arizona win, not just because I think that they would be an easier opponent in the Super Bowl. I just kind of think that the Panthers, you have a mobile quarterback in Cam Newton. I think that would just give the Patriots headaches. They would Ted Ginn running deep routes, Greg Olsen up the middle. I think that they have an offense that would just kind of be frustratingly effective against the Patriots. You wouldn't see any sort of like extended drives. So it would be kind of like the Chiefs where every other drive, there would just be some stupid play that would happen where Cam Newton would just break out of the pocket and just run for 40 yards, and they would be in field goal range. And I think that would happen the entire game. Whereas with the Cardinals, I mean, I'm with you. I love Fitzgerald. I think he's one of the best professionals out there. He had a monster game against the Packers. That overtime catch with a Hail Larry. I don't know. I find that obnoxious. I don't know if that's a good name or not yet. I think that has to soak in. They can come up with something better than that is all I'm saying. But I thought that he did pretty well. I mean, I think that he had a fantastic run there. He's going to continue to succeed in the playoffs. He's one of the most clutch playoff wide receivers in NFL history. So I think that you'll see him go out there. He'll match up probably with Josh Norman of the Panthers. They have a strong defense in Carolina. I don't know if Arizona can win, especially with Carson Palmer dealing with a hand injury. But, any given Sunday, so who knows what will happen tonight.
Yeah, who knows? And I don't want to become part of the people, a large number of people, I'm sorry to say, who are already talking about who the Pats are going to play in 2 weeks, how they'd rather play the Panthers or the Cardinals, because I know some are confident about this Denver game, but I think this is going to be a very kind of grind them out, nail biter of a game. I think the Patriots are a better team on paper, and I think it's the kind of game that if Denver Broncos play the Patriots maybe 15 times, the Patriots win 11 of them. Broncos win 4 of them, but that means 4 wins for the Broncos here, and it could easily come today. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, talk Super Bowl, because there's a pretty big matchup coming up in just under an hour.
That is a super specific 4 out of 15. I think
I just made that up.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, so let's move on. Let's talk about Patriots and the Broncos. That's why we're here right now. Kickoff is at 3:05, so a little under an hour from now. It's taking place in Denver. It's, as we said, it's Brady versus Manning for the upteenth time. What are your initial thoughts on this? What are your 3 big keys for the day?
3 big keys for the day. I think Denver's going to have to run the ball well, which means the Patriots have to stop the run. The Patriots are very good at this, is what they do. They find their one element where the opposing team is good. They take that away, and they force you to beat them with your second and third option. Amazingly, I'm about to say that their second and third option is giving the ball to Peyton Manning and putting it in his hands. You think about that epic comeback game from a couple of years ago when they were down 24-0, and they just ran the ball for 200 and some yards and didn't let Peyton Manning throw. It's now the exact opposite, in my opinion. Manning's a weak link. He's not going to be able to put the team on his back. He has yet to throw a touchdown this playoff. He's not really that good anymore, as we all know. So stopping the run is key number 1. Stopping the defensive pass rush for Denver is key number 2. Offensive line was fantastic last week. Inexplicably fantastic. I don't want to dissect it and find out why. I don't really care. They did their job, and it was great. Brady was pretty unpressured for most of the game against Kansas City. And if they can do that again against Denver, they're in really good shape, especially because I think your article, Rich, talked about how the Denver defense isn't going to want to shadow Patriots receivers, which might suggest a zone defense. Brady's great against the zone. Edelman eats zones up, and Gronkowski can find those holes in the zone as well. So if that offensive line can hold up and keep that zone packages deeper, and Edelman can get open and Gronk get open, that should bode very well. And the third one is kind of a prayer, I guess, but the Patriots have to run the ball. They have to run the ball, at least to the point where the play action is somewhat effective. I know Brady's good at throwing the ball a lot and throwing 50 times. He's got a good record at that, but I think there's going to be a scenario late in the game where the Patriots have the ball and the chance to close it out. And if they can just run it and grind out some yards to keep the clock moving, it's going to bode well for them. So hopefully the Patriots can get their run game going. Those are my 3 big keys of the day.
Yeah, and I feel like going off of that last point, I feel like most playoff games, or at least most games towards the end of the year in particular, have these specific moments where a team has to come to terms with its weakness and has to overcome them in order to win. And yeah, it's definitely the run game. The Broncos have one of the best run defenses in the league that you're not going to run on them. They're outstanding. Their defensive front is ridiculous. Ware and Miller are 2 of the best edge defenders in the entire league. Derek Wolfe is going to be an absolute menace today. You'll hear his name all the time if and when the Patriots run the ball. Malik Jackson cannot be underrated as well. And then their linebackers in Trevathan and Marshall, they're not great. I'm not going to say that they're on the same tier as a Jamie Collins and Donta Hightower when it comes to being a strong duo, but they are both clearly very above average players, and whether or not their success is linked to them playing amongst such really strong players, they do their job really well, and they are guys that you can trust to not make mistakes over and over again. So I think that if the Patriots are going to run the ball, as you said, it'll come towards the end of the game, and they'll have to do it. It'll be at an incredibly crucial moment. And personally, we saw that at the end of the Chiefs game when the Patriots needed to run down the clock and just get a first down. and they couldn't really trust him to do that. So Brady ended up having to throw it on that final drive, and there was a lucky ricochet bounce off of Tamba Hali into Julian Edelman's arms that won them the game, essentially, that got them that first down to run out the clock. But if that bounce went the other way, everyone would be pointing to how this Patriots rushing offense was not able to be a part of this team and how that was a problem moving forward.
No, totally. And, every team gets a couple of bounces per playoff. Every team has a couple of balls go their way and a couple of balls go against them. And the Pats used one up against the Chiefs. They may not have another one like that. That's definitely a pick six if Holly hangs on to that. Just nothing but green in front of him. Not a great throw by Brady, honestly. Holly saw that coming, so the Patriots got really lucky there. And that's a situation where you want like a Stephen Ridley against Buffalo a couple years ago, just trying to grind out some 8-minute offense. I would love to see that. However, not the Patriots' MO this year, and the Denver defense is very, very good against the run. So it might be kind of a pipe dream to think that's going to happen. Now, Rich, the last time these two teams played, November 29th or 30th, I believe, this past season, Denver walked away with a 30-24 victory in overtime. It was Brock Osweiler, no Hightower for the second half, no Jamie Collins, no Edelman. Amendola was banged up. Gronk went out for overtime. Very different team. Is there anything we can take away from the first time these two teams met, or is that game kind of a wash?
Oh, you can definitely take some things away, and we saw how this Patriots defense – they flipped the switch once Hightower went down, and they were throwing out Gerard Mayo and Jonathan Freeney at the linebacker spot. And the Broncos just ran circles around them. That was the beginning of the end for the team. I think that the big takeaway from there, and I think that this is something that will really, really help the team with the coaching staff and over the course of the practice week, is that they're able to hammer home that, hey, you can't take this opponent lightly because they ran this ball down your throat. They did it at will. They had no problem doing it. And so while there is just so much talk about how, as you said, the Patriots, who are they going to play in the Super Bowl? How much are they going to beat the Broncos by? The coaching staff can say, hey, none of you are allowed to buy into this because the Broncos kicked you up and down the field for the entire second half. And while it's easy to point and say, hey, there was no Jamie Collins or, hey, there was no Donta Hightower, you can be certain that Belichick's in that locker room telling you guys, is that the excuse you want to hang your hat on? Is that what you want to go down on and say, hey, we would have made the Super Bowl if it weren't for Jamie Collins or Donta Hightower not being there? And I don't think anyone on the team would accept that. So I do think that there is a big takeaway from that, and it's that the Patriots can and will have to stop the Broncos' rushing attack. And I believe we'll see the Patriots come out and give additional focus and play at a really high level to prevent them from generating any momentum.
Now, how do they do that? How do you stop this Broncos rushing attack? Do you go to the 4-3? Do you go with the big nickel package with the guys you have in there? Gerard Mayo on IR. Freeney is back, but I'm not sure how much good he's going to do because he's not a very good player. What's your best strategy defensively to stop the Broncos running game?
Yeah, well, I have some sort of flipping around with ideas. I mean, their first one, as you said, is clearly doing the 4-3. I don't think that the Patriots would want to have three linebackers on the field, so I think they would move Patrick Chung up. So technically, by all accounts, be a 4-2-5. They would put Patrick Chung up in the linebacker spot. They would probably add Deron Harmon on the back end or possibly Jordan Richards. But they would have enough depth at safety in order to put Patrick Chung up in the box as one of their premier tacklers. That's one way they can handle it. I think that would be fine if you put Alan Branch, Malcolm Brown, Akeem Hicks, Silver Salinga. You have those guys defensive tackle. They'll be more than fine at stopping it up the middle. I think that when you come to who will be on the edge, Jabal Sheard needs to be out there. I think that there's no question that he is the best defensive end on this roster on a per-snap basis. I think that he is better than Chandler Jones. I've come to terms with that. I think that he is better than Rob Ninkovich. And I think that Ninkovich has really come into his own. He's 32. I mean, he's found himself again. He's come out to play in the playoffs. And I think that if you had Ninkovich and Sheard out there, and then you can save Chandler Jones for these pass rushing situations, especially because he's battling an injury. But you put Sheard and Ninkovich out there on the edges, making sure that no runs go around the edge, make sure that the backside contain is always there. You can trust Hightower and Collins to do their job in the middle of the field more than you can with Freeney and Mayo. Then you have Patrick Chung. I think that you have enough manpower in order to stop this Broncos rushing attack with that personnel grouping. Other theory or possible idea is to go with a 3-3 front, and that's going to involve having three down linemen, and that's going to be whether it's Brown, Salinga, Hicks, or Branch. You'll have three of them down there on first down. And then you could possibly put Ninkovich on one end, Hightower on the other, and Jamie Collins in the middle. That's something that could possibly work. The Patriots have shown no fear at putting Hightower on the edge at points during the season. I think that's what he did at Alabama while he was in college, so he knows how to run that role. I think the big concern there is leaving open the middle of the field, which for me, that's the one thing you can't do against this Broncos offense. And so I would personally lean to that 4-2-5 front with Patrick Chung as the money linebacker. But I definitely think that when you look across the board, this Broncos offensive line is not fantastic, and that this Patriots defensive front seven, if you throw in Patrick Chung as an additional body, they're good enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I think there are too, and that's going to be a huge part of this game because Manning, like I said, is not great at getting the ball out fast anymore. And when he does, they're kind of lame ducks. He's still got the IQ, which is high as ever, but the execution, his body does not catch up to him. And the fact that we really can't discredit the fact that the receivers dropped a bunch yesterday. People are acting like if Manning hadn't had those drops, he'd have like 7,000 yards last week. That's not the case. He still didn't play that well. You can't blame the entire thing on the drops, but the drops were a factor. And I imagine the receivers are going to do better at that this week against the Patriots. And to that point, this Patriots secondary is going to match up against Demaryius Thomas, against Emmanuel Sanders. Owen Daniels is having a very good year. Vernon Davis is on the team. He's been pretty ineffective thus far, but this could be one of those games where that random guy that Jason Avant has like 500 yards against the Patriots. That seems to happen. How do you see the Patriots secondary matching up against these Denver receivers?
I think that you look at this Broncos offense and you see a very similar makeup to what the Jets have. I mean, they have their two top receivers, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. You can definitely draw a connection to like the Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker duo out there. And then you have the running backs. They do a really good job of rotating Ronnie Hillman and CJ Anderson, which I think is great. They're both quality running backs. Anderson's the better runner. Hillman's faster, so he's good in the open field. And if the field, like if the footwork is kind of slick out there, which is very possible, Hillman could have a pretty strong day. But I think overall, Anderson is the better overall running back as a receiver when it comes down to blocking. And then they have Owen Daniels, who will always be an effective receiver in a Gary Kubiak offense. He's followed him to Baltimore, followed him from the Texans. He's only ever been in Gary Kubiak's offense. He has 517 yards on the season. He's a good tight end. He's someone that the Patriots were kind of interested in. They didn't feel comfortable, and Daniels rather stay with Kubiak. And so that didn't work out. But you have those guys as your primary offensive weapon. So you have your running back, you have your two wide receivers, and then you have your tight end. And then Kubiak does a pretty good job of kind of rotating in some other players, whether it's a slot receiver like Benny Fowler or Jordan Norwood, or a different tight end like Vernon Davis or Virgil Green. And so they kind of rotate that fifth spot around just like the Patriots do. But when you're the Patriots secondary and how you want to match up with this, last time this went down, Logan Ryan matched up against Demaryius Thomas, held him to one catch on something like 13 targets. And Ryan had a few pass breakups. Thomas had something like 4 drops, but he only had one catch for 36 yards. And then you have Emmanuel Sanders that the Patriots matched up with Malcolm Butler. Sanders had a very, very good day, so the Patriots might be reconsidering that matchup. Now, when it comes to Owen Daniels, I think that there's no question that the Patriots can and will want to put Patrick Chung on there. Chung absolutely erased Travis Kelce, who's a top 5 tight end in this league. I think that they're kind of expecting him to do that again. And then you have Justin Coleman, who can go out there and cover whether it's Jordan Norwood or Benny Fowler, or they can put someone else out there. If it's another tight end, the Patriots could move a linebacker over into coverage. But the Patriots do have the personnel. They could technically copy what they did back in Week 12 with Butler on Sanders and Ryan on Thomas. But if you were Matt Patricia, if you were Bill Belichick, would you run out with that same scheme that they had in Week 12, or would you kind of tweak it a little bit and change it up?
I think I tweak it a little bit. It's tough because obviously last time it was Brock Osweiler. I think that the option run, the guy who can move his legs, the quarterback that can run, was a much more of a threat. Peyton Manning is not going to take off down the field for 30 yards. That's something that they don't have to account for anymore. And that does free up the linebackers a lot more. I'm very curious to see what they do with Jamie Collins. I think he's improved drastically, yes, in his time as as a coverage linebacker. Drastic improvement there. He's still not great at coverage linebacker, but he's definitely improved. And there's no reason to really have a spy guy on Peyton Manning. I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to get his touches regardless. He's one of those guys, you just can't completely contain him on the day. So there's no point trying to completely erase him. It's more just limiting his production and when he's damaging and when he isn't. What I'd really like to see them do is Peyton Manning is still very, very good at the comeback route. He throws those very well. The timing is still there. It's still very solid. So if the Patriots can find a way to disrupt those short little comeback routes to Demaryius Thomas and to Emmanuel Sanders and to Owen Daniels and maybe force the Broncos to tempt them to throw deep a little bit more over the middle, that'd be fantastic because Peyton Manning's deep ball is pretty much gone. It's not really there anymore. It's inaccurate. It wobbles. Doesn't get where it needs to go. So if the Patriots can clog up the middle and prevent those little comeback routes, those hitch routes, those crossing routes over the middle, and make it very tempting to go deep on these Patriots secondary and these safeties, that could be a really, really big boon for the Patriots defense, get some turnovers that way. So I don't think they really did that as much against Broncos the first time because Osweiler was that running threat and the stretch run was working so well, that read option, they couldn't really allow for that. But with Manning out there, they don't have to worry about that too much, and they can bait those deep passes. So that's what I'd do.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty impressive too. You looked at how Brock Osweiler came out in Week 12. He wasn't fantastic, but he made all the big throws when they counted in the fourth quarter. And that included a big deep pass down the sideline to Demaryius Thomas, who's one reception of the game for 36 yards. And then I think it was like the very next pass was to Emmanuel Sanders over Malcolm Butler that got him down to something like the 4-yard line. And so you look at those deep passes, and that's how the Broncos managed to claw their way back in. They made some of these ridiculous plays that were just clutching your heart, like, oh my gosh, why is this happening right now? But they did that continuously. Peyton Manning can't do that. If he tried to throw those balls down the field the same way that Osweiler did, you can guarantee that a Patriots defensive back at the very least was get his hands on it. I think that Devin McCourty, he could definitely get the interceptions down there. Jerron Harmon might only be able to knock it down, but the Patriots do have the ability to take away those deep sideline passes. So I'm totally with you right now. I think that if I'm the Patriots, my number one focus is to take away that middle of the field. You don't want to let Peyton Manning develop a rhythm. You don't want him to have those little easy crossers, which I think the Steelers were giving a little bit too easily. But the way that Peyton Manning wins is that he has his wide receivers do their quick little in-slants, and that gets them open. That gets them open against a linebacker. It gets the defensive back out of position. Patriots can't let them do that because it gets them 7 yards on first down, and then the Broncos are good enough to pick up at least 3 or 4 yards with the rushing game on the very next down because the opposing defense has to wonder about the pass or the run. And so the Patriots can't let them pick up that chunk yardage on first down because Peyton Manning will take that every single day. I think that the biggest change between Peyton Manning from the first 8 weeks of the season to how he played against the Steelers in the playoffs is that he seemed to have come to terms with his limitations. I mean, he still tried to make those deep throws. They were still very, very ugly. But I think that for the majority of the time, you saw his passes. They were, as I said, those little slant passes to whether it was his tight end or his slot receiver. He threw those timing routes to the sidelines. So as you said, the comeback routes, those are the ones that the secondary, they don't have a chance on so long as the quarterback is completely on the money with it. And for however duckish those passes were, Manning was always on the mark, and you have to give him credit for that. And then the third pass that he loves to make are those intermediate/deep in cuts to Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, where the hope is that Peyton is able to look off the linebacker, get him out of a passing lane, and then Emmanuel Sanders is just running horizontally across the field, and he'll be able to make the catch for a first down and move the chains for a lot of yards. And so if I were the Patriots, I keep my guys in the middle of the field. And you said that you hope that you're interested in what Jamie Collins can do. And I think that Hightower was rated as one of the best pass rushing linebackers in the league. Personally, I want Manning just to get squeezed in the pocket. I want him to feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know if I want to go all-out blitz on him because that will leave something open. And he, for all of his weaknesses, is still capable of reading, reacting, and at least taking a chance of taking advantage of it. Versus, I don't think that their offensive line is good enough to keep Jabal Sheard and Chandler Jones and Rob Ninkovich at bay on clear passing downs. So if I were the Patriots, I drop all my guys into coverage. I drop Hightower and Collins back in to take away those quick slants to the linebackers. I have Devin McCourty, and as I said, we'd have the 4-2-5 defense out there with Patrick Chung as the linebacker covering the tight end. So I would put Devin McCourty at the intermediate level to take away those potential in-cuts from Thomas and from Sanders. So he's just sitting there right away. And then you have Harmon at the third level, and he's there to try and deter any of those big passes up the seam. And then if Peyton Manning ever feels the desire to throw that deep sideline route, Harmon will be able to come in and make a play on it. And as we've seen, he's a very good center fielder. He gets his hands on a lot of those passes. So I think that if I were the Patriots, as you said, force Manning to throw it deep down the sidelines, but at all costs, don't let him get anything up the middle.
We talk about those deep sideline passes, those deep routes, preventing those. Rich, I've been having nightmares all week, ever since I found out the Hockey League, who is 14-0 reffing Denver games this millennium. I found out about Ed Hercules Hockey League reffing this game. I've had a nightmare almost every night about a scenario where the Patriots are up like 22-21 or 23-21. They have the ball. They go 3 and out because they can't run it. They punt back to Denver. Denver can't get anything going. Then on like 4th and 20, Manning tries a prayer down the sideline to Demaryius Thomas. Malcolm Butler breaks it up, and a garbage pass interference call that puts him in field goal range. And then they run it 3 times, and then they kick a field goal to win it 24-23. Make me feel better and tell me it's not going to happen. Go.
It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it.
All right, good. All right. Phew.
All right, next question. That was good. That was good. Next question. No. All right. So I think that the big concern there is that the Patriots are only going to be able to score 23 points against this Broncos defense. And kind of on a similar note, I think there is a big concern in the idea that the Broncos will be capable of scoring 24 points against the Patriots defense. And I think that we talked a little bit about the Patriots defense. I mean, we spent the majority of this time talking about that. I think that, as we said, Peyton Manning is not a great quarterback at this point. He still has the cerebral ability, but he doesn't have the physical capabilities. I think that the Patriots know that if they take away the underneath passes and if they take away the middle of the field, Manning is going to be entirely ineffective. He won't be able to do anything. And the Patriots, I'm not going to be surprised if Jamie Collins has a big interception on the day. I just feel that's going to happen. But if you remove Peyton Manning from the game, then the Patriots can really hone in on the rushing attack, or vice versa. If they hone in on the rushing attack, then they can focus on Peyton Manning. But I think overall, the Broncos offense is not capable enough to put up monster points. And I think that you look at how they struggled against the Steelers defense, only put up 23 points. They're not a good defense. I think that they put up 27 against the Chargers, not a good team. And you just look all the way dating back. The Patriots they're like pretty much their high score since week 2 against the Chiefs, and they just benefit from scoring in overtime. So if you look across the board, the Broncos have really struggled to put up points this season. So I don't think that the big fear is that their offense is going to at least take over the game. And I know that wasn't your scenario, but to go with your scenario, I think that this Patriots offense, and we can talk about them right now, I think that this Patriots offense can and will find plenty of success against this Broncos defense. Because specifically, as you said last game, there was no Amendola last game. There was no Edelman last game. This was 2 weeks, 3 weeks after they lost Dion Lewis. They still were playing Brandon Bolden out there. They didn't know what they were doing. And then their offensive line was atrocious. They just didn't have all of their pieces. And then Scott Chandler was a heavy focus in this passing offense. And then Rob Gronkowski busted his knee. There was just so many unfortunate events that played in there. And the Patriots still put up 24 points against this defense. And I think that we saw what the Patriots did against the Chiefs. They came out there and put up 27 points. I think that the Patriots are going to have a similar time against this Broncos team. I think that you look at the injury to Chris Harris, and as you said, the Broncos are not going to be shadowing receivers this time. They haven't really done that for most of the season. They prefer their zone. They prefer to mix it up. They prefer to play sides. But I think that you look at the Patriots' strengths, and that plays right into it. If you're Tom Brady, what is your biggest strength? It's the pre-snap read. It's the ability to put your wide receivers in the best position to succeed. You're not passing to Keyshawn Martin and Chris Harper anymore. You're passing to Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola and Rob Gronkowski, and they're all close to 100% as they're going to get. And you're passing to these guys, and you're going to be able to do mismatches, because if Chris Harris isn't 100%, if these cornerbacks are playing side, you can find a way to match up Julian Edelman against a guy like Bradley Roby, who's averaging like 5 yards after the catch every single pass, which means that Edelman's going to be walking up and down the field. And so I think that this Patriots offense is actually geared to have a pretty successful day against this Broncos team that relies heavily on their pass rush to disrupt the opposing quarterback and force them to make bad decisions. And that kind of puts the defense in the dictating position for the pace of the game. Whereas the Patriots, they're going to nullify that entire advantage by using their quick passes. And even if the Broncos try and do press coverage, the Patriots know how to use their rubs and their natural picks in order to get open. So I think that this Patriots team, they're going to be fine. I think that they're going to be able to put up points on this Broncos team. And I think that they'll fare better than the Broncos offense will against the Patriots.
Here's hoping, man, for sure. And the question back that leads to is, I talked earlier on this preview about how I'd love to see the running game get established. They haven't been able to do that. It'd be good to be able to run the clock out if they're up by 4 with 2 or 3 minutes left. However, they haven't been able to do it all season. Denver's run defense is nasty. And questions we always ask ourselves as Patriots fans when we ever see a team just that can't run the ball is, why are you wasting it down trying to run it against this defense? Like, what are you doing? It's a waste of a play. Do we even try to run it today, or is it going to be all shotgun short passes?
Okay, my thought on this, I think that Steven Jackson's going to get a few chances. I think that that's just what's going to happen. They brought him on here for some reason. Maybe it'll happen against like the Cardinals or the Panthers in the Super Bowl if they reach there. But I just don't see it happening to a reasonable point to say that he's a huge part of their game plan. I think that, and I've said this over and over again, I think that James White can and will be the main target out of this backfield. I don't think that he'll have the same touches or impact that a guy like Dion Lewis or even a Shane Marine had, but he'll be out there getting roughly 75% of the snaps. And because of that, I think that he's going to be in there as an extra blocker at times. He's going to try and leak out of the backfield as a receiver, maybe get a slip screen or two. But if I'm the Patriot, I'm not even going to bother running the ball. Maybe I'll have a delayed draw to James White, see if he can generate anything up the middle of the field. But I would guess that if we look back at the end of this game, the Patriots are probably going to run more when they're burning the clock than they will at any other point in the game. And I'm just talking about closing out the first half, closing out the second half. And other than that, I'm going to expect them to pass as often and pass quickly.
Probably. Again, I'd love to see it happen to get the running game going, but especially with the way Brady plays with a decent offensive line and Julian Edelman in there, that quick release. We talked about this all season. That's kind of their biggest weapon against a improved and better offensive line, but I still think Denver has a huge edge O-line versus D-line in this game, so you got to prevent them getting to Brady. And if Brady can get going early, I think the key to the victory for Denver is to hit Brady early and get a quick touchdown. If they can do that, Brady will get rattled. It'll disrupt the timing, and it could be a long day. But I think if the Patriots play the way they played against Kansas City last week and the Broncos played the way they played against Pittsburgh last week, the Patriots should win this game.
Oh, I 100% agree with that one. I think that ultimately we can go into predictions right here, and then we can go into X factors. But I think that if the Patriots go out there and they don't make any dumb mistakes, if Harper doesn't muff that fumble, if Geno Grissom, who's not active, he doesn't miss that block against the Eagles, I think that it comes down to not making those mental mistakes. And if the Patriots don't make a mistake on their own, then this is their game to lose.
No, I agree with that. But again, that's a lot of ifs. They could easily make a mistake. Brady's 2-6 career in Denver. It's a tough place to play. Denver defense is going to be strong. The Denver home fans are going to be loud and obnoxious, and communication is going to be an issue. So this is not going to be a cakewalk. On my X factors for the game, I think on offense, it's going to be James White. Again, he's the guy. I think every time he touches the ball, something awesome happens for the most part. I don't know why he doesn't see the game more, but every time he does something good happens. And that zone defense, a receiving back in a zone defense is a huge asset. So hopefully he can get going a little bit. And on defense, I got to go with Dont'a Hightower. I think he's the guy that's going to be the captain of the team, patrolling the middle of the field, disrupting the timing on the passing routes. And if he can be a guy that's in Manning's back pocket and Manning's wondering where he is and he kind of sees his face in the mirror, could be a huge day for Dont'a Hightower. So those are my 2 X factors.
Yeah, so mine is going to be right guard Shaq Mason. I know that last week was his first time playing right guard all year. It was against the Chiefs, but it seemed to really solidify this offensive line. It was his natural position in college, so I wonder if that's where the Patriots are going to play him moving forward. I think that for him, He's going to be facing against Derek Wolfe for most of the game, and Wolfe was an absolute nightmare back on week 12. So if Mason's able to have at least a modicum of success there, Tom Brady's day is going to be a little bit easier, and that'll be a win. Even if he doesn't completely shut out Wolfe, but if he's able to at least go to slightly less than a draw. If Wolfe still wins 1 out of every 2, I think that's going to be fine by the Patriots. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it's definitely going to come down to Logan Ryan and Malcolm Butler. We saw how Butler got, I don't want to say torched, but he was definitely beaten by Sanders on multiple occasions back in week 12. But Ryan definitely benefit from Thomas dropping a bunch of passes. And when it comes down to it, Peyton Manning uses Demaryius Thomas more than Brock Osweiler did. So that means that Logan Ryan will be the target of Peyton Manning for a lot of the day. And so I think that their level of performance, if they're able to match how they performed against the Broncos back in week 12, that would bode well for the Patriots. Personally, I think that their run defense would be better. And if their secondary plays as well as they did in week 12, they'll be in a good position to win. But I think that when it comes down to it, Ryan's going to really have to step up and have a great day against Demaryius Thomas.
We're going to find out in a little less than half an hour. So it's time to get to predictions, Rich. What do you got?
So my thought on this one, I feel very confident that the Patriots are in a great position to win. I think that they are going to force some turnovers. I think that they're going to take advantage of some of Peyton Manning's passes that are not going to have a lot of strength behind them. And I think that a few of them might end up sailing right into Ron Harmon's arms. So I think that at the end of the day, the Patriots are going to win this one 27-17.
27-17 from Rich. I just really don't want this game. Like, obviously complaining about the officials is kind of an unofficial pastime in the National Football League, but I just don't want to be able to point to some call that was totally bogus and get all surly about it, because I'm just worried about that. I know this is a very tinfoil hat thing to say, but I don't think the NFL really wants to see the Patriots in Santa Clara in a couple of weeks. They just don't want them to be there.
No, really?
I know
no.
it sounds crazy, but it's really not in their best interest from a business standpoint, from a image standpoint, just all around the board. Is not. They don't really want the Patriots to play in that game. And are they going to actually take necessary precautions to make sure it doesn't happen? I'm not going to say that, but I'm curious as to that. But the Pats are a better team. I don't think the Broncos can really score. I think that's a huge problem. The defense is good. The offense is good. The Patriots should come out. I'm going Patriots 24, Broncos 14.
Nice. Well, do you have any final thoughts on this game?
Again, guys, this is the 5th one. There are 28 other teams right now that would kill to be where we are just once in the past 5 years. So let's all just enjoy this. We won it last year. We're still world champions. This is not Brady versus Manning. I'm going to repeat that again. This is not Brady versus Manning. Manning doesn't suddenly leapfrog Brady in the rankings if he takes this one. That debate is over. It is Patriots versus Broncos, and let's all have a good time.
Oh, absolutely. Hope everyone stays safe in this game. Hope everyone stays safe in the snow for everyone out there watching. Thank you all for supporting us over this year. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I'm not going to act like this is the last one. We're going to have one more at least. Right. But I hope y'all enjoyed watching it. But, thank you all. Please subscribe. We'll have more podcasts out right after the game. So, Alec, enjoy watching.
You too, buddy. Talk to you later.
Have a good one.